1 2 1 2. We are back. The entire crew. GYGB War Report Show, the official Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury prediction show. We're here, man. I am your co-host Roberto Flack. The whole crew, Coltrane, ROD.
Yo.
Oh, diggity in that stealth Rock Mars mode right now.
yeah.
RO diggity. But yo, man, listen, we're here, man. December is here. Every week up until Christmas, fights every single weekend.
Crazy, right?
Some crossing over each other as far as the apps and the networks and things as such. We've gotten used to we tend to figure it out as far as watching all the fights. But first and foremost, man, we got, I guess, maybe the bigger of the fight. I mean, I guess when you consider all the fights that are there, this is obviously the one that's gaining the most traction. We've been talking about it for a few months already, and we're gonna get deep into it. But there's obviously some things we want to discuss prior. There's a bunch of news popping here and there. Again, like this fall, I gotta say, more so than I think even last year, man. I feel like every single week we're hit with news, and not like just, oh yeah, something. I mean, like every week is like some type of news that is just making 2019 look like what looks to be a much better year than what we've had thus far, man. So, real quick, I want to jump into this with y'all before we get in, obviously, to Wilder Fury. Let's talk about this real quick, man. There was a article that came out this week, and we talked about it. I believe it was from an article on Ring TV as it relates to the story that apparently Carl Moretti and Todd DeBuff contacted Angel Garcia for a potential Terrence Crawford-Danny Garcia fight. Not going to go into so much detail. You can go into Ring TV, you can read the article. But basically, they're Top Rank stating that they wanted to match up with Danny Garcia before this now proposed and what seems to be kind of official Luis Collazo fight that's going to be taking place, I believe, the week after Spence versus Mikey, which seems rather convenient. But let me get your guys' take on this, man. We talked about it, through the chats, but Train, give me your take on just the whole story itself.
We talked offline, and I was talking to the squad here about some of these reports that come out, and I know it came from Top Rank, and apparently Carl Moretti. And the thing about these reports, there's three stories, right? There's their story, there's their story, then there's the truth. Somewhere in between. And the problem is, and I'm going to let Radha speak in a second, because, Radha brought up something earlier when we were talking, on the chat, and he was saying, back in the day when you had these negotiations, you just basically had two promoters and you got it done. Now you got networks involved. So it's almost like it's a third wheel in the building now. It's a third wheel, basically. It's no longer a date between two people. Now you got a third person that's throwing the whole situation off now. So it's not just a matter of my promoter call your promoter, we'll hash out the earnings, and then boom, like that, the fight is made. I think that's the most complicated part of this sport, trying to explain it to people when they say, well, why that fighter's not, like a lot of people come up to us, and we're going to get into Crawford and Spence. They think it's just this easy thing that can happen, and it's not. It's really complex because there's so much going on that, and rightfully so, fans really shouldn't know about this part of the sport. It's just a business part of it. We follow the sport religiously, because we play a part in trying to do our part in shedding light on people and covering the sport. So we got a closer ear to the situation. So we kind of know what's going on. And they may have offered Danny Garcia $3 million. I'm not denying that. I can't say if it's true, and I can't say it's not true. The problem is that there's so many other politics in play here. Like, I don't know what else Danny was promised from Al Heyman. Maybe in the grand scheme of things, he was going to get more money to do some other things. Now, the fan in me say, that's a fight that I want to see. It should have. Listen, technically, all them guys should be fighting each other. Like, this was the 80s or the 90s. And listen, there's always been, like Raza said, there's always been politics in boxing. Don't lose me. But the difference now is you have the networks who are players in this. You just saw Bob Arum, who just did a multi-deal with ESPN. Al Heyman got damn near every network outside of ESPN. He's inside their pocket. So it's like, it's all these different political barriers that's taking place. It's just sometimes not as simple as just offering a fighter a contract, is the point I'm trying to make.
RD, what's your take on it, man?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. So I think Train said it best, but I think my take is this. I mean, Train described it. You know, back in the day, we had Bob Arum and Don King. You know, people on the two sides of the street, things got done. You know, Tyson and Lewis, it got done. Manny and Pacquiao, Floyd and Pacquiao, it got done. Collazo and Terrence Crawford, ironically, is getting done. Let's go back and put the car in reverse and go look at Train laughing. Let's go back and put the car in reverse and go to circa 140. Mm-hmm. And let's think about why Danny moved up. And we love Danny. He's from Philadelphia. The reason why he moved up was for what, Roberto? Who was he trying not to fight when he was at 140?
Well, the consensus is that he didn't want to fight Terrence Crawford.
Exactly. And he told us 1,000 times he wasn't scared. You know, and it's fine. I don't think he's scared. It's a business move. As you and Train said, he didn't want to fight him. So this is why Terrence Crawford allegedly, or quote unquote, didn't fight that much competition, because the competition left the division. One in particular was Danny Garcia, who was, you know, who had kind of cleaned out the division semi. All right, but, you know, Terrence Crawford, you know, took over where he left off. Now, let's fast forward. Terrence Crawford now moves up to 147. Now, allegedly, he doesn't fight anybody. But who does he call out? Calls out Spence. You know, we laugh about the Papa Wu thing when he ran up on Action Bronson. Spence had that face. Or Joe Button when Raekwon pressed him in the trailer. You know, you take your pick. But now what happens is you got a situation where, you know, it's like circa 140 again. Terrence Crawford's like, hey, let's rumble. You know, and it's crickets. So Danny puts up a post and he says, hey, if you haven't heard it from my mouth, don't believe it. Now, if history is going to repeat itself, and we know if you don't learn from history, it's bound to repeat itself again. We know that Danny's probably not interested in fighting Terrence Crawford. So I would say that it sucks because, you know, everybody now can use these networks as this like built-in excuse in terms of saying, hey, you know what, I'm not going to fight this guy because he's on the wrong side of the street. But I started this whole narrative to tell you that, you know what, history proves that it can be done, you know, with Manny and Floyd, with Tyson and Holyfield, with, you know, Oscar and Trinidad and whoever else you want to throw in there. It can be done. So I really feel bad because, again, you know, Terrence Crawford is going to wait, just like Train said. You know, people are going to wait until he's like 39. He's a grandfather. And, like, you know, they're going to want to fight him then. Versus, like, fighting him when he's really in his prime, man. And it's a shame, man, because everybody's going to use politics as the crutch. And, you know, Danny, man, could really make a name for himself by finally just stepping up, man, and fighting somebody of Terrence Crawford's caliber. So I think it looks, you know, to end it off, I think it would have been a great way for people, the naysayers, to say, hey, Terrence Crawford hasn't fought anybody. But I also thought it would have been great because a lot of people say, hey, Danny's always cherry picking. So I really felt like it would have did both of them some good. But, you know, in order to do that dance, you need a partner. And Danny's not willing to dance. So there you have it.
Yeah, and I agree with what both of you guys said, and I think what it really comes down to, man, is that I think Danny and Train touched on this. I think he has already been given options not only for this upcoming fight, but probably for the fall.
Right.
And very seldom, man, like in the history of boxing, have I seen where fighters already have like their year mapped out in the sense of like you don't know what's gonna happen in the fall, man. Like,
right.
You know, me, we were talking today. Like, what if Ugas beats Porter?
Right.
You know, what's going to be the situation where, you know, what if you don't, speaking for Danny, like, what if you don't land that Thurman fight rematch right away? He apparently doesn't want to fight. He has no eagerness to fight Errol Spence. So the thing I looked at it like was, I think with a lot of, not everybody, but I think a lot of these fighters that are under Al Heyman, and it's kind of a catch-22 because we talked about it on the chat, man. Like, the one thing we got to give Al Heyman is the fact that he's helping these guys invest in their future. Unlike any other promoter, advisor, what have you, has done for fighters in the past. Like, Bob has given guys opportunities and things as such, but I don't know if Bob has been somebody that has told, like, his guys, like, hey, man, like, you might want to invest your money here and there and things as such. So then when you retire, you know, you're not.
And they all left. All his big guys left.
All gone, or you're not fighting until you're 45, you know? But in life, there are trade-offs. So I think ultimately, man, it does come down to whether or not the fighter wants that particular fight. And when I look at what they offered Danny, I feel comfortable saying Al Heyman very likely would be able to pay Danny more money wherever he goes. Now, what I will say, though, again, and this comes down to the point of whether or not the fighter wants it.
Right.
Crawford is a #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He is one of the welterweight champions. Granted, we don't know the full payout as far as like what he would really get. And there'd be pay-per-view upside because there would obviously have to be a pay-per-view with Fox or Showtime and
clearly
and having a collab. And according to Carl Moretti and Todd DeBuff, and it's in writing, there's no hurdle. So they already said that, so they can't go back on their word as far as that's concerned. But I just think Danny he's content where he is fighting who he's fighting. And I think that's just what it comes down to. And I just think that these guys, when they say thank you, Al Heyman, like, I think they're being very legitimate about it because, to my point, is like he's helping these guys out. So I think the mentality with some of these guys is like they don't want to necessarily bite the hand that feeds them. And I think, honestly, that's what it really comes down to. But again, like I said, there's trade-offs.
Well, we talked about it earlier, too. We said that, I think you brought it up, Roberto. Bob Arum, his module is kind of yesterday. It's old school.
Yeah.
Hey, you're fighting this guy. Not, hey, I want to fight this guy. No, you're going to fight who we tell you to fight. Case in point, Jeff Horn getting it. Remember, they were dangling Pacquiao in front of Crawford. Remember, he kept being promised that fight, and he never got it?
Yeah.
And then he ended up fighting Jeff Horn instead after Jeff Horn already beat Pacquiao, which that could have been Crawford's glory. Now, listen, from a business standpoint, I understand that Al Heyman is not going to put his most lucrative guy at that time. Pacquiao was still under top rank. He's not going to put his most lucrative guy in with his up-and-coming lucrative guy because now you're wiping Pacquiao out. Now you have no lucrative guys anymore. Now Pacquiao ends up, we know the story. He ended up leaving, and now you're stuck with Crawford, who you have no other A-side you can't do a 50-50 fight for him with another A-side opponent because Top Rank don't have any guys. Now you take Al Heyman's side of the street where these guys basically control their, like you said, they control their own careers basically. So if you're a fighter, you're going to say, well, I want to go to the place where I got the luxury to fight who I want to fight rather than who the fans demand that I fight. I'm going to handle my career the way Bernard left Don King and people called him crazy and he turned all that money down and he ended up getting a Trinidad fight anyway and he came out to Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. These guys, because boxing is the one sport, probably out of all the sports, where these guys get done so dirty. Yeah. You know, I can tell you that we see ex-fighters all through the city of Philadelphia broke. I'm not going to mention no names. I don't want to put nobody out there, but it's dudes that I saw driving Rolls Royces. 20 years later, they were on beat up 10 speeds. I mean, it's just crazy. It's sad when you think about it. So from that respect, you get it and you understand it. But the fandom inside of you, and I know Rada Da doesn't like getting into the business aspect of it, and he's very honest about that. He keeps it a beat about it. The fan inside you, you know, you want to see these guys fight the best. That's just how boxing supposed. By the letter of the law, Danny Garcia and Crawford should have fought. But Danny's with Al Heyman, so he ended up fighting guys like Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, all these guys. Now, here's the flip side to all this is that Earl Spence is with Al Heyman, and he can't get none of these guys in the ring. Now, they're all under the same umbrella. But that being said, though, Earl Spence and Crawford, all this that we're saying, because I don't want to make this just about Danny, the big fight in the welterweight division obviously is Crawford and Earl Spence. We're all praying and hoping that this fight gets made. I know Rada Da brought up like Holyfield and Tyson and Pacquiao. Those fights were at such a high magnitude that I think that Crawford and Spence will probably – they won't be at that level, but it'll be at a mid-level where it'll be a demand. I think it'll be a need because both guys are going to run out of people out of options.
Right. And
it's going to be a point where it's a demand.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's – and ROD touched on that too. The demand is there, and look, this is why we're all talking Crawford Spence. And look, they know, Bob knows, we know, like it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's just
happen. Yeah.
It's just I think for the immediate now, and not to get off the topic of Danny, but like it's kind of a situation where Dan or Crawford, and look, even Top Rank too, like they understand, like their stock of guys at welterweight can't like hold a candle to Bud. Right. And look, man, they might have to, have a situation where it might be a joint venture, but the PBC side may have to get a little bit more of a chunk because they right now they don't need Crawford. Like Crawford needs them.
Right. That's what I was trying to say. That was my point I was making.
But I think ultimately the boxing fans.
Yeah, the fans.
Look, I think everybody involved though. I mean, even when it concerns Bud and Thurman and Bud and Port, these are fights that I guarantee not only boxing fans, but I think casual fans would get behind if obviously promoted correctly. But to me, man, if you were to ask me, I feel like Crawford's going to – I just see him having an uneventful 2019, unfortunately. Man.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it's just – again, I await a curveball. You know what I mean? I waited.
No, I mean, no.
But, it is what it is, man. But as far as that's concerned, Danny's fighting Adrian Granados. We're gonna see.
What about Porter though? Remember Porter guaranteed that he was gonna fight Spence.
But ROD he was mentioning too, man. Like Ugas for Porter might be a spoiler, man.
That's what I'm saying.
We don't know, man.
He's the most talented guy.
Hey, listen, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, Rada.
I'm telling you, I told him that just what you said, trained years ago. When Kell Brook stepped to Porter, I will never forget this. It was you got me thinking that Porter was going to lose too. Dox was the one that thought Porter was going to win. Mm-hmm. He was like the first person that got any type of movement and a jab. Mm-hmm. Like basically, he going to beat Porter. Let me tell you something. Ugas is a good Cuban boxer. I think he's a medalist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Now Porter can outwork him. That's what Porter does. He does it. He outworks. But if this guy come with any type of science, man, Porter gonna be in for a long night, man.
And let me say this, man, as far as it relates to Ugas. Now, I've been trying to do my research on Ugas, and maybe the fans out there can let us know.
Yeah, there's not a lot out there.
I don't know if Ugas is signed to Al Heyman. He could be, he couldn't be. I don't know. But in the best case scenario, him beating Porter would actually consolidate the division, because if he's not signed to Al Heyman, that makes Bud and Ugas a unification fight that they can make, which just makes the Spence fight that much closer. So that's where, again, like, we don't know what's going to happen.
Let me just say this real quick, and this is just my personal opinion. I think the fight is going to happen next year, and I'm going to tell you why. Crawford and Spence. I think that them doing this fight with Collazo, right? Crawford. Right. He's a southpaw, and it's an Al Heyman bridge. I think Ryder is on to something what he's saying.
I think third Heyman fighter.
Third thing, right? So it's like, it's almost like a test. Let's continue. You start off lightly, right. And then it's like, okay, the business was successful. Let's continue on, because let's face it, Earl Spence is going to be frustrated after this Mikey Garcia. These dudes are competitors. One thing about Spence and Crawford, and I'm not taking nothing away from the rest of those guys, them guys dare to be great. So
yeah.
They're just different. Like, them two guys there are different from anything else in that weight class, where it's like the business is one thing, but them guys are fighters. Like, they're like, look, I just want to get in the ring. He's supposed to be the best. This is the guy I want to fight. Earl Spence. He want to fight all those guys. They don't want to fight him. They don't want to fight him. Make him fight him. Crawford, we already know his story. So I think depending. See, the schedule is weird. Roberto, we always joke about this. It's two parts of the year in boxing. You got the spring, and then again in the fall. If you don't hit on one of those, then it's not. It's crazy. Remember we talked about that? The new weight boxing.
It's the truth. Now the summers they had those little one-off.
It used to be the summer. Remember, the summer used to be the money. That was the money month.
Yeah. I mean, well, also too, man. Let me just say that, because we didn't have a show when they did the video, but the whole backstage Crawford Spence video is the video of 2008.
Some of the best footage.
Period.
Yeah, right.
Period. That was some great
gladiators.
Great content, man, and it showed. Again, man, for these people who say that one guy's ducking these guys want to fight each other. Like, they know it's not going to happen, like, obviously immediately, but this is a situation where we know
something. Tell me though,
they're destined to fight, man. So we'll tackle that hopefully.
Yeah, we got
this time next year. We're planning to link up and go see this fight somewhere.
I know, right?
That's what it's gonna be, man.
We all have to be in a room for that fight.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, no casuals allowed.
Yeah. Oh, the Ryder love that, no casuals. Meanwhile, hold up real quick. The Cowboys is running up. I keep looking to the side because the Cowboys is running up in the Saints right now. It's still second quarter, but it's 10-0.
Well, we ain't Cowboy fans over here, so
we
y'all either, man. So.
Hey, listen, if we watch that fight, I'm gonna tell you something about Train. Comic relief. We're trying to get together this weekend, but Train going have like 12.
Oh wait,
12 big gulps. I don't understand why Train. Listen, the way that Train drinks caffeine, he should have a gut, man. This boy has no gut. Listen, man, it's no crazy. I'm sitting here, man.
It's the sugar, man. Not the caffeine, man.
It's the sugar, yeah, but yes, right. It's the sugar because the caffeine makes. Man, you're right because the caffeine make you lose weight. But I never seen anybody get all this ice in a big go cut, man. He just had a resurgence, man. It was like he just
Roberto, y'all got Wawa's down there. Yeah.
Man, so he gonna be when we go watch this fight. Just be prepared to have ice and cola because this boy's gonna be on it.
No, I'm gonna sneak in the Coke Zero joint in there. You ain't gonna know.
I know you keep telling me about these Coke Zeros, man. I like that sweetness.
Yeah, man. So let's jump right into it, man.
Let's get into it. I know Ryder chomping at the bit. I tried to get sleep to come on because he got
sleeping. Man, it's been like way over like a year and a half or two, right?
Yeah, man. He got a weird. Who he's thinking in the fight is interesting. Roberto, I mean, we'll get into it. Ride or die, I tell you.
So yeah, man, this Saturday, the first Showtime pay-per-view post the Mayweather era. Well, we'll leave it open for next year, but the first pay-per-view Showtime has produced, not including Floyd Mayweather, since 2013, and it's the first pay-per-view of the year for them. And yeah, it's again, like, it is a lineal heavyweight title fight. We kind of forget about that. WBC heavyweight title. Very obviously Wilder Fury. Very confused why they chose the Staples Center in LA. This seemed like this would have easily been in Brooklyn, right? Like, I was very confused why they did this in LA, because it's not like either guy has is invested in Los Angeles or in California, and or, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think there's any fighters from LA fighting on the card. Again, don't quote me. I haven't fully gone through the undercard, though. Luis Ortiz is on there, Jarrett Hurd, and then they got the other split feed with Adonis Stevenson and Zvordik, which is gonna intersect with the pay-per-view. I don't know why they did that. That's kind of weird. But anyway, man, it's here, Wilder Fury. If you guys didn't get to see the whole situation that happened yesterday with the press conference, and then Deontay Wilder had a little something to say to Radio Raheem that made headlines and everything. But look, man, if there was any other fight, I guess, for Wilder to take, not named Anthony Joshua, I said from the very beginning, this makes the most sense. Why?
No doubt.
Because Fury is still the lineal champion, and at least to us, man, the lineal status still means something. At least to me, the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy, and even with like Canelo Alvarez, like, he's a lineal champion, and at this point, deservedly so.
And he's colorful. And he's colorful, Roberto.
Right, yeah,
he has a personality,
right, and I think that's why. That was an obvious choice. You know what I'm saying? He's talked up. I've watched the All Accesses, and Fury's story we've seen before. On HBO, they did the special on him, I think, leading into the Klitschko fight, where they talk about his life as with his family and the whole gypsy thing and everything, and they did the same thing here. But at the end of the day, man, both these guys gotta fight. And funny enough, I don't know if you guys noticed this or you saw this, Wilder's only like a 2-1 favorite against Fury.
There's people. Go. I'll let Ryder tell you.
Go ahead, ROD. Go ahead, man.
Okay, yeah. So the one thing I'm gonna say is that when you are talking about like these like the lineal heavyweight champion, like you said, you're talking about someone who's never been beat before.
Right.
Obviously he beat Klitschko in a boring fight. It was very boreable. That was
rules.
that wasn't even that. You know what that was? That was like, I know people get mad at Floyd, but that was boring to me.
Yeah.
But it was terrible, but nevertheless, a win is a win. And obviously he has some setbacks, and very skillful big guy. The one memory I have of him, believe it or not, or three memories I have of him. It's not the lineal championship. It's his fight with Steve. And I was just saying, wow, here's a guy they said was supposed to be really great, and Steve, dropped in front of the room, dropped him, and he's really a cruiserweight. And Steve ain't really known for his power. Steve is really a great boxer.
Right.
Yep. So that was number one. The second thing I noticed about him was like the guy quote Biggie lyrics like off the top of his head.
Right.
Yeah, that was funny. And the third thing was just that, another Philly guy, Fast Eddie Chambers, friend of the room, he was sparring with him over there as well. He was one of his chief sparring partners, not recently, but like over the years. So I'm always trying to say, I'd say this to say, who is Tyson Fury? You know, here's a guy that beat Klitschko. You know, he was the lineal heavyweight champion. You know, we kind of like, you know, fell into the, you know, how charismatic he was, like a crooked preacher. You know, listening to every word that he had to say, and we fell in love with that. But you know, he went into it. You know, he went into and had his, you know, his pitfalls after that, and we're still, to me, trying to figure out. Besides the fact that he's the lineal champion, he hasn't been beat. Well, who is he? Like, what's the best thing you can say about him? And the best thing you can say about him is, unfortunately, is this guy has the gift of gab. You know, he's 6'9", he has the gift of gab. Now, when you look on the other side, you look at Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder doesn't have the skill that Tyson Fury has. You know, we can go out and say that. But one of the things that we know, similar to we learned at that night in Tokyo, is that you can have all the skill, you can have all the power in the world, but if you ain't got no dog in you,
No doubt.
that stuff is null and void. You know, you can look at any sport. You can look at whether the sport is like, I'll tell you this right now. Like when you look at Russell Westbrook play, he's not as skilled as other players, but he has such a motor,
tenacity, yeah, man.
Yeah.
that it just kind of usurps, you know, like, you know, what things that he missed. And I think that's what you miss with, that's what you get with Deontay Wilder. Like, yeah, he throws a lot of windmill punches. Yeah. You know, he looks like freaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the Game of Death. You know, what's that? You know, like, you know, remember the boy tried to run away from him and he grabbed him by the head over the steps and pulled him over? Yeah, like he looked like he would do something like that. But Train has always said it. And I will never forget this. Train always said, and I used to think that he was crazy. I used to be like, man, this guy's out of his mind. But I believe it now. He said, if you get these guys that are superior athletes, and you put them in the ring, and they're very dedicated to their craft, they are very difficult boxers to beat. And I'm not talking about these full-time boxers. Yeah. You're talking about guys that play, I'll never forget this, he said guys that play multiple sports, they got different type of fast twitch muscles, and you know what I mean? And it makes up for a lot of the stuff that they might have not had, like the tutelage growing up. And that's what I think you get in Deontay Wilder. You get a guy who not only has like good size and power, but he's an athlete. You know, when you peel back his backstory, you hear about, you know, the trials and tribulations with his daughter, which is his motivation. But you also hear that here's a guy that played basketball was going to play basketball collegiately and was going to be a wide receiver collegially for football. Right. So now you're like, crap. You know what I mean? Yeah. And on top of that, let's not forget he has a dog. Like what do I mean by that? Well, when everybody was ducking Luis Ortiz, he actually, King Kong, he actually fought him after he tested positive for steroids. As a matter of fact, he said when he tested positive for steroids and the first bout was canceled, this is how crazy he is. He said, I'll fight him. I'll still fight him. And the fight was still on, remember? He didn't want it to be canceled.
And don't forget about Povetkin before that, Ralada Povetkin.
Povetkin, yeah. He was going to go over to Povetkin. And Roberto, you didn't like him. You said, you know what? I give Deontay Wilder props for trying to go over there and fight Povetkin, even though he's on steroids. So I'm telling you this right now. If we think that some guy with the gift of gab, I'm being honest, that's been off for a couple years, that's going through his own pitfalls, that's trying to soup this fight up, that was knocked down by a cruiserweight, albeit a good one, is going to beat Deontay Wilder. I think that we're sadly mistaken. I think this fight is going to have its ebbs and flows. I think that, honestly, there might be times where Tyson Fury may make Deontay Wilder look childish and miss. But I'm telling you, the one thing this dude has is this eraser, where he makes a whole bunch of mistakes, and all of a sudden, boom, he erasing the answers that he put down from, like, you know, a couple problems before, and now he done got an A. So I'm telling you right now, I'm picking Deontay Wilder to win this fight either by decision or by TKO, man. I didn't think that Kong could be knocked down, man, but when he hit him, and Kong was making him look amateurish. When he hit him, man, it was like Kong was like, whoa, Poppy, what just happened? You know, like, I ain't never felt this before. And I didn't believe in that power, man, but I'm a believer now, man. And he got that dog, and I'm never going to underestimate anybody that has any. The worst thing you could do to him, and I'll shut up after this, is just motivate him. That's the worst thing you can do. I think the best thing you can do is like what Chris Ariola did. Like, he didn't really talk to him. Like, he just kind of like went through the motions with him. Like, my life matter, his life matter. It was like kind of like rainbows and unicorn, and you know, he just kind of went out kind of different. But like, you know, Ortiz was talking. Now you got the Gypsy King. He talking. I really think when you start motivating this guy, you just get like an evil side out of him, man. So I believe, man, he's found his motivation, and I think that, you know, Tyson Fury may lose TKO, man, probably 10th round, or you know, a close, or maybe a decision. Unanimous decision.
All right, so we got one for Wilder. What are you going with, Train?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, well, real quick, I just want to let the people out there know I'm rocking the Scullion t-shirt. Shout out to the homies on the west side, cuz.
Sir Crip Walkers.
All right, but no, real rap. Like Rada said, he gave me a little bit too much credit. Originally, I didn't like Wilder at first because, and Rada as well, like, he's not the type of fighter we would normally get behind. Like
all of us, yeah.
All of us. He's wild, he's careless, he's sloppy at times. And he was when he was fighting Stavern, and I asked Rada, I said, damn, he's like, well, I asked him, what's your interest in it? He's like, man, he just is something in between his chest that is just different from him. And, you know, after like evaluating and looking at him is when I had the conversation with him about being an athlete. And I was saying that, and this is any sport I don't care what sport you pick now, most of these kids today are cross athletes. So where they're max core training all year. They're playing multiple. If your kid is not playing multiple sports, you're doing something wrong. Like I don't care what sport it is, you got to have them playing multiple. Like the twitch muscle, the hand-eye coordination, like all that stuff is relatively the same. And sometimes guys are just raw athletes. And Rada brought up Westbrook, which is actually a really good parallel because Westbrook can be a gift and a curse at times, his dog. But if you take the dog out of him, he won't be the Westbrook that we know. And the same thing with Wilder, where I mentioned all these things that he do, but somehow he's able to put it together and be successful with it. Take Jermaine Teller, who I believe is the same makeup.
Same cloth, right.
Same thing. Country boy, raw athlete. Some walked in the gym one day and somebody said, I'm going to make you the next middleweight champion. Same thing with Wilder. If he wasn't doing that, he would be he's from Alabama, right? Roll Tide. He'd probably be playing for Nick Saban. Somebody saw him and was like, listen, we're gonna look, people peep game. So somebody saw it early in him that we're gonna make this guy the next heavyweight champion. Like Rada said, I don't want to repeat a lot of the stuff he said. But the thing about him, and you saw it in the Ortiz fight, that dog that's inside of this guy, there's no quitting him. We brought up Zab, right? Zab, in my humble opinion, is outside of like Pernell. I'm just talking about like Floyd is gifted, but he's not like he makes his. Say it. No, spit it out and say it. You're right. Spit it out and say it. Let them people know. Floyd is not the athlete that Pernell was. But the difference is Floyd has this up here. And he has this. He got both, which is a daily comp. Give me this over athleticism any day. But at the same time, this inside of here, I'll take that over it all. Even though sometimes that could be a gift and a curse as well. And we saw Floyd dog when he got punched in the mouth by Shane. The shoulder roll went out the window.
The shoulder roll went out the window.
If people want to say that he's a safety first fighter, go back to that fight when he got into the trenches. Like, so, going back to this whole Wilder situation, you found out a lot about these guys. What do we say, Rada? The first time they hurt, right? You found out the testament. I never forget when Shane fought Vernon Forrest. Speaking of Shane again, he got cut and he quit. Not quit, but he checked out. He complained more about this cut over here. Now Shane got way more of a pedigree than Wilder will ever had. Just Shane grew up boxing when he was a little boy. His father was, he was in the sport his entire life. Well, I saw something in him that I didn't like. I'm like, whoa, first sign of adversity, this dude done checked out already. Wilder, on the other hand, turned up first sign of adversity.
Yeah, right. On several occasions, too.
I was going to say, on several occasions, we saw this bull damn near out on his feet and turn it up a notch. You know what I'm saying? Lomachenko, saw him get dropped. Looked like it could be trouble for him. What did he do? Turn the volume. I'm talking about he cranked the system. Roberto know about that Miami bass. He put that
and with a torn shoulder.
With a torn shoulder, mind you. So, to Radada's point, in case people wonder, because there's a lot of people that's probably going to say, look at this or question, and I get it. You're like, this dude is not that talented. Tyson Fury, he's crafty. He's a big crafty guy. But to like Radada said, he's chinny as well. We saw him be dropped. Shout out to Steve Cunningham, our homie and our friend to the show. He dropped him. Now, styles make fights. We get all that. And Tyson Fury was honest. He said that was my toughest fight I ever had.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I just think that Tyson Fury is mistaken if he think he's fighting some fragile guy that's going to break down. Even if I don't think Wilder's getting hurt in this fight, me personally. But if there are people think that he's going to get hurt and fold up like a church folding chair in the basement, they are sadly mistaken. Like I actually got him stopping him, Radada. I think Wilder going to stop him late because I think that the trap is that they can hurt him. And that's like the worst. That's the worst thing that they can go into this fight thinking, because now you're fighting fire with fire and you're bound to get burnt. So I'm going with a late stoppage. Probably like around, I think after the 9th round, I think he's going to finish him off. Because the bull, listen, Wilder got power in both hands. He's such a raw athlete. Like, it's almost like you wouldn't pick anybody from the draft in the NFL and molded them into a heavyweight prize fighter. Crazy.
You know what's interesting though, to a point that you brought up. Besides the fact, I mean, I don't agree with Brother Nassim, even though
yeah, he went a little.
But yeah, said he was like going to be better than Ali. I don't believe that, but I will say this though. The one thing that is interesting is we always, you always judge people by their last fights, and I looked at Wilder last fight, and honestly, in this vacated desert of a division,
bruh,
for him to go and fight and did what he did with King Kong and to face that type of adversity and to come back and not only beat him but to knock him out, it was so. Listen, I'm not trying to be funny. It was so shocking to people that people thought he cheated. That's how crazy it was. Like he should have been out in the 7th round. They thought he cheated, man. They was like, oh, he was hitting him on top of his head. Like, yo, listen, that power's for real. I'm gonna tell you this right now. I don't have Tyson Fury beating King Kong on his best day.
Yeah, how about that?
Like Roberto, you might think differently, but the Tyson Fury that came back can't beat the King Kong that fought Wilder that night. Would you agree or disagree,
I would agree.
Oh, Sleep changed his pick too, by the way. Sleep was actually picking Tyson Fury. I forgot to tell y'all that.
Yeah, because he was talking that madness over the summer.
Yeah.
He was talking madness over the summer, man. And it's funny that Train also said that hat has been sitting in the back of the car too long, and now it's fading.
Roberto know about the hat? Do he know about the hat?
You know about the black hat, Roberto?
No.
So we call Sleep the black hat, man.
But a guy, somebody called. It started with a dude on YouTube called him that first.
Oh. Yeah, he's making these crazy predictions, and he was getting them right.
He was on a crazy winning streak. Like, out of all of us, he was on like a crazy tear. So they called him that knuckle with the black hat, basically. You know what I mean? That's what they call him.
And then he came out. His last couple albums were nothing more than you gotish. You know what I mean?
Oh my
Baby Huey.
Baby Huey. And we just like, man, what are you doing, man? Capadonna. Yeah, Capadonna. He's like, yo, what are you doing, man? What are you doing, Sleep? So
y'all both made great points, man. Not to go over every single thing, but I mean, I think the thing that makes Wilder must-see TV is the fact that he is a vulnerable fighter. If he were somebody that was just, we saw Tyson do it, you know what I'm saying? But as far as like just knocking these dudes out, and he became must-see TV, but people like, you know, they're intrigued by vulnerability, man. And it's kind of the same thing with Joshua in a way too, because he's another vulnerable fighter where it's like you just never know. Even his last fight against Povetkin, where he was losing until he knocked this dude out. I think with Wilder and Fury, man, I'm kind of, not to piggyback too much of ROD, but I kind of see this fight playing. I mean, you guys both hit points, but I think there's going to be a point maybe early in the fight where Fury might be outboxing Deontay Wilder pretty thoroughly, you know, because the one thing about him, and again, this is all dependent on what kind of Fury we get. Because what I want to tell people too, man, there's a difference between being in shape as far as losing weight and being in fighting shape. There's two different things, okay?
Okay, make sure when you do this, not to be funny, not to cut your wisdom off. Make sure you tell the people in preference Roberto Duran and also Adrian Broner. Remember, you used to say this. I want you to make that point about Fat Camp. Say what you said. Fat Camp versus skill training. Say what you said.
Exactly. I mean, and that's what this might have been. Now, what I'll say with Fury, he has dropped a considerable amount of weight. I don't know how much he's lost for this fight, but we've seen at least from the first he's had 2 comeback fights against, you know, rinky-dink fighters, but we've seen somewhat of a gradual weight loss. This, more than the previous 2, seems a lot more. Then we start to hear, like, they brought Freddie in, like, last minute. There was talks that there was issues in the camp. I mean, again, it's all hearsay, but usually when there's smoke, there's fire, you know, and, you know, there's people saying, you know, he's not looking that great and he's using his mouth to sell the fight, which, you know, could be the case. But something tells me Fury, or this fight, will look not exactly, but in the sense of, like, I think Fury is going to be winning this fight early. And just like in the Ortiz fight, we're going to be like, wow, man, like, he's getting outclassed. And just like every other fight prior, he's going to get hit with a shot, meaning Fury, and the whole fight's going to change. I just think Wilder, his X factor is just, it's too much. And not to do like a prediction or anything for like a future fight, but, you know, I think his punch might be too much for the other champion over there across the pond. So I just think that Wilder, while, again, not the most skillful guy, can be sloppy at times, I don't think Fury is going to present the type of danger where Wilder will make these little mistakes. I don't see Fury really making him pay for it that much, not even as much as Luis Ortiz, who I think is a much bigger puncher than Fury is. And we already saw what happened and you guys already touched on it. We already saw what happened when he got hurt, when he's getting outboxed. Wilder, for whatever it's worth, man, is a lot more patient than people give him credit for, man, because Luis Ortiz was doing a lot of good stuff in there, man. He was throwing great counter shots. He had speed for a big man. But again, man, it's like Wilder just knows in his head, I know I'm going to land on this guy. And I know once I land on this guy, it's going to be a problem. And even the first shot he landed on Luis Ortiz, it's like you barely saw it, but right when he hit him, you saw the legs buckle. Then, to credit Ortiz, he gathered himself and he hurt Wilder. And Wilder was literally, I want to say, if the fight was going, if the round went another 20 seconds, Ortiz might have stopped him. Might have stopped him. But that being said, to your guys, you know, to you and Train's point, he gathered himself and he took Ortiz out, man. And I think all of us here gained like a level of respect for him because we kind of wanted to see it. Like, Ortiz showed us a part of Wilder we hadn't seen yet. You know, we've seen him get outboxed, but I had never seen him get hurt, almost knocked out, late in a fight, not like early, like late in a fight, to come back and not only win, but stop the guy that was about to, become the new heavyweight champion of the world. So I just think Fury, man, while I think he's going to give him trouble, I think the inactivity, I think the fact that Wilder is just hungry, man. He's just really hungry. He wants that Joshua fight. He wants to be great, man. He some of these guys we're talking about that aren't, just saying, okay, I'll take whatever fight. Like he wants to be great. And he's showing it, and I think he's gonna show it Saturday night, man. I got Wilder stopping Fury, if not midway through, I think like 8 or 9 rounds, man. While I think Fury will make it difficult early, I just think it's gonna be the same thing again, man. I think Wilder's just gonna land a big shot, and it's gonna change the course of the fight until the bell rings, man. So I have Wilder mid or late round stoppage, man. So I think we're all collectively agreeing that this is going to end up in a knockout, or well, you're saying maybe decision.
Yeah, I think decision only because I want to give Tyson Fury that respect. But the one thing I said is that here's a guy that just I don't know, like, and I want to touch on this before because I know we're about to go, but I want to touch on this before. But here's a guy who just finds little things to motivate him, man. And it's funny because I don't think we liked Josh. I don't think we liked Wilder before. Like Joshua, the way he carries himself is more our guy than Wilder is. But then Wilder does things, man, you say, oh, crap. And I think he won us over with that Ortiz fight. Right, and the reason why is because, we was clowning him and stuff like that. And it was kind of funny. We were saying he didn't really fight anybody, but like, honestly, man, like, and you and I thought that he was just going to try to find a way not to fight Ortiz. And he still was pushing for the fight. And I'm like, man, this guy, last minute, something's going to happen. His hand is cut, something. And lo and behold, man, he won our hearts, man, by that heart.
Yeah.
And no pun intended. And I really feel like it's that same thing that's going to carry him through, man. I think that Tyson Fury, man, unfortunately, people don't want to believe this, but remember what we saw when Andre Ward for Chad Dawson? Yeah. I'll never forget this. And Andre Ward talked about this. And he said, what Andre Ward said was when he was at the weigh-in and he had Chad Dawson. A lot of people picked Chad Dawson, by the way. He said, he whispered to him, said, I heard about you in sparring camp. And he said Chad Dawson, like, air went out of his balloon. Because, in sparring, like, he was getting knocked down a lot.
Yeah, I heard about it. I remember that.
And, I think that, like you said, sometimes in sparring, but that's sometimes a prelude, man, to what's really about to occur, man. And I'm telling you, people be laughing at, our buddy, and his unorthodox way of fighting is wild, is crazy. I'm still trying to figure out how he became a bronze medalist, man, like with that. But I'm going to tell you this right now. He can mess around, man. He gonna beat Tyson Fury, man. He really is, man. And I just feel like a lot of the people, man, who really are voting against him are people that just don't like him at all.
They're just not like, they're still not sold on him, And look, this is all of it. This is us even admitting the fact that like he does have deficiencies, but
he definitely has deficiencies, man. And I mean, he definitely has deficiencies, man. And, it's almost like, what it's like. I'm gonna tell you what it's like. I'm gonna tell you this, and you're gonna be like, Tom, this is, you might ride or die. This is a bad analogy. It is almost like how we used to talk about Allen Iverson, man. Like I'll never forget people in Philly, man. Like there was a group of people that did not like Allen Iverson because of what he represented and because he did everything unfundamental. It was like when you taught your kid how to play, it was like, if you were sub 6 foot, don't play like Allen Iverson. And you're like, why? He's like, well, he makes he makes left hand layups with his right hand. He every time he shoots deep, it's a different looking shot. Yeah, he's athletic. He plays the passing lane. He doesn't play deep. It was like all this stuff they said he couldn't do. But what he couldn't measure was his heart, man. And like this guy would never like really miss games. You would talk about all the stuff that he did off the court, but you could never like debate his heart, man. And I'm trying to tell you, man, that's what I feel like about Deontay Wilder, man. Here's a guy that like really and truthfully, we can clown him to death and say so many things about him, about how unfundamental he is, how anti-scientific he is. But then when you get in that ring with him, man, it's like a different story, man. And he kind of wins you over. And that's the same thing I saw with a lot of people with Allen Iverson, man. They used to always say, oh, he's not this, he's not 6 this, he's not that. And then what happens is they see him in that court, they play with him. Oh, he carries a lot. That's a carry. It started turning into that stuff.
Yeah.
And then they realized, they're like, crap, man, like, this is a generational talent. And I think that fortunately, that's what you get with Wilder, man. He's a generational talent. And I think regardless if it's a TKO or decision, he is going to beat Fury. He's going to hurt Fury.
Yeah, man. I see that. I see exactly, how you see it playing out, man. It's the only drawback to this whole thing, man, is this is an $80 pay-per-view, man. Jeez, come on.
What do we do?
Oh my god, y'all didn't even know it was a pay-per-view until like today, man.
Man, that was crazy, man.
Well, what I will say though, at least at the very least, like Showtime. Because this is a Showtime pay-per-view. This isn't Fox. And I'm sure maybe Fox is going to go down this line. But they are including the Showtime app, being that if you have that and you don't have cable, you can order it from the app if you have a streaming box or your phone that can stream to the TV. They're trying to be proactive. I get that. $80 just seems like a lot of money, man. I even see, again, like, even if you said Canelo Triple G2 was $80, and I think it was $80, even that I'd be like, all right, but that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money in the what's I guess being called like the kind of near the end of the pay-per-view era, even though Fox is now getting into the pay-per-view. I don't think pay-per-view is ever gonna like thoroughly leave, but I don't know if this is like deserving of an $80 pay-per-view.
Nah, it's definitely not, man. Like, what we've paid so much for pay-per-views now, man. We kind of like need like between, not that you guys care, but Roberto and I care, between MMA and this stuff, man. Like, I need a break pay-per-view wise, man. I'm trying.
I've been telling people like I hate the zone and da-da-da. Yo, I subscribe to it, man. I love boxing. I watch mixed martial arts, so I'm not paying for HBO anymore. So we're like, if I still want to watch the guys I want to watch that are on that network, I'll pay for that, But $80 for this pay-per-view, man, and the ticket prices from what I saw, man, was like 130, 140 in the nosebleeds. I mean, again, it's Staples Center, it's LA, but man, come on, man. But
yeah, that's not good, man. That's not.
So I mean, the thing with Wilder though, he has to hope that this pay-per-view does well, because again, I mean, I know you don't like talking the business side of things, but I mean, it does reflect on when he does sit down with Joshua. You want to make the most money you can, and this pay-per-view doesn't do well, it's going to be tough for them to try to like gain some type of leverage. But I mean, let's see the fight first. Let's obviously all the statistics and everything as far as the finances, that's like afterwards. But we got to see the fight this weekend. So all of us here collectively got Deontay Wilder winning the fight. Me and Trainer going by knockout. But yeah, this Saturday, man. Also, again, there's gonna be a Showtime card that, again, is happening. I think at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. The main event is Adonis Stevenson and Zvornik. I think Stevenson's gonna finally lose that fight. But I think the telecasts are gonna intersect in some way. But I think the pay-per-view begins at 9 o'clock. And they got like 3-4 fights on the undercard, 3 fights, and up until the main event. So yeah, that's pretty much it, man. We all got Deontay Wilder winning. I don't think we get the Joshua fight in April. We're gonna have to wait. So we'll just have to kind of see how this plays out, man. So this is again, man, we're going to be back every week until the holidays, man, because we got boxing literally every weekend this month up until, again, Christmas. And world title fights, well, next week is Lomachenko-Pedraza, lightweight unification. The week after that, the debut of Canelo on DAZN. And then the week after that, the Fox on PBC debut with both Charlos defending their titles. So lots of boxing. And Carl Frampton is fighting Warrington. Was it Warrington?
Mhm.
In that fight, Chisora and White are fighting later that night. There's a lot of fights on the 22nd. So stay tuned, man. We're gonna be here to give you all the rundowns, our predictions. Appreciate all the follows on Facebook, man. We're up to 13,000 followers, man. We appreciate all of y'all. We do this for y'all, man. Like I always say, and like I always say, man, follow us at Guard Your Grill Boxing on Instagram. We're on YouTube. If you haven't already, man, subscribe. Hit the notification button when the new shows do pop up. The shows will also be on Facebook, just facebook.com/GYG Boxing. And also Twitter, man, at GYG Boxing. I kind of forget to plug the Twitter in, but so that's our show, man. I am Roberto Flack. Shout out to Coltrane, R.O. Diggity. We'll be back next week covering, recapping this fight. I'll be on Facebook following the fight, recapping it. I mean, it'd be kind of late, but y'all are up on there anyway. So that's pretty much it, man. Like I said before, subscribe, hit the notifications, Guard Your Grill TV on YouTube. This is the GYGB War Report show. Signing off till next week. Peace.